Sinking in its claws, here's your look at the NECA Toys Alien vs. Predator. This is Razor Claw's Alien. Terror grips the city of Sandrad, and it's overwhelmed by a mysterious outbreak of aliens. The cybernetically enhanced Major Dutch Schaefer and Lieutenant Lynn Karasawa of the USCMC are surrounded by a swarm of xenomorph drones when a pair of unlikely allies, Predators, appear and offer temporary alliance. Now it's a battle to end them as human and Predator join forces against an unending wave of deadly xenomorphs. Okay, like we had done with the arachnoid alien, we're going to do the exact same thing, starting this review by measuring off how tall Razor Claw alien is. Now going to the very top of its dome, you're looking at a figure standing 9 inches in height, which we can go ahead and switch that over to centimeters, as being a 22, almost 23 centimeter tall figure, 22.8 to be exact. Also, like the arachnoid alien, this Razor Claw doesn't have any accessories. Basically, what you see is what you get. But what you do get, though, is a rather impressive looking spectacle. I have said, and you can quote me for this, I have said many a times that some of my favorite incarnations of both, respectively, the Predator and respectively the Alien, some of my favorite renditions of them, have either come from the Kenner line that NECA has, of course, then given us updated sculpts and updated articulation for, or it has been the video game tie-in figures. Now, here is a prime example of taking something that we know and love, the xenomorph character and form of the xenomorph, and kind of spinning it on its head, turning it into something very drastically different. Obviously, you'll see one of the big things, one of the big notable things about this particular xenomorph is the fact that it's got a purple color scheme, which I think works exceptionally well for this particular type of mold, and really just xenomorphs in general. It has also the trademark markings of the video game type of, not quite cell-shaded, but the coloring is very much more distinctly obvious. You can see where there's highlights and lowlights and lights reflecting off of the character's body, which realistically it would be a little bit more subtly kind of transition to one another. It wouldn't be these big noticeable brush strokes, but actually that works quite well for the video game tie-in figures. So you get like this really splendid pink and purple color scheme, which works so well on this particular mold of xenomorph. Now the regular body, look, the body seems not that much different than what we would normally get from a xenomorph, but then they kind of tweak elements to it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to list every single change from what a normal xenomorph body would be, but I'll try my best. You'll have the protrusions of additional bones sticking out from its forearms. I'm obviously going to talk about these here in a second as well. You'll have the exaggerated longer tubes and pipings that stick out from the back of the xenomorph. This is something, of course, much longer here on Razor Claw than what you would normally see on a regular xenomorph. Obviously, the big one is the elongated head. Get a gander at this head sculpt. This head sculpt is spectacular. I've never seen a xenomorph with such a long domed crest here. It's just spectacular. It still has a translucent dome, so inside of all of this, not only are you treated to some nice smoked airbrushing that's around the outer area, but then the top part of it, you can actually see the skeletal interior of what would be the xenomorph's actual skull. I really do think that's neat. I can't believe how long that is. We'll do some comparisons in a second to arachnoid alien so you guys can see. In addition to that, the Razor Claw has much longer feet than the standard xenomorph would also have, sticking out bones from the back of its heel, very large nails sticking out from the front of its toes. And then, of course, then you get to the hands, living up to its name of Razor Claws. You can definitely see why it would be called a Razor Claw alien. The long nails is just fantastic. I've never again seen anything like this on a standard xenomorph. So you can really see what I'm saying. Like when we get to the video game inspired xenomorphs and when we get to like the Kenner stuff is really where you really see NECA Toys actually shine as a toy company, being able to produce and craft this in plastic. The other notable thing as well, something of which, again, would be distinct on this particular figure, let me just move him back a little bit here, is obviously the very much longer tail and the spear-like tip that's located on the end. It actually kind of looks like, when you look at it, kind of reminds me of a fin, like something you would see on the back of a fish. It's made up of a softer plastic, so luckily breaking is not going to be an issue. You could just continue to bend this back and forth. I don't know why you would want to spend so much of your time and life doing this, but you can see that it doesn't have any damaging effects to the tail. It's just very, very soft plastic. In fact, actually, it's soft plastic from this point on. It unfortunately doesn't get any of the airbrushing that the tail gets. The tail has this additional pink that's kind of just laced across the edges here. Unfortunately, it doesn't make any appearance here, but I mean, I guess you could chalk it up for the fact that this is its stabbing weapon, and maybe this is a different type of bone than the rest of its kind of spinal tail here. The tail is very, very long, and it kind of aids as well to help the figure stand up. It kind of counterbalances for the fact it seems to have such a really long head, and everything about it really just seems like you've taken a figure and just kind of proportionately stretched it out on screen. Kind of even looks like something you would see from like an 80s sci-fi film. You know those films where they are trying to come up with an alien species. You know well that they're going to be coming up with basically just a variation of a xenomorph, and that's ultimately what they do. Like I feel like that would be on like something called Space Laser Wars, where all the stuff would have Z's or Z's on the end of it. Even like Wars would instead have an S, it would instead have like a Z or Z, because we were all about doing Z's and Z's in 80s advertising. Again, I really do like this one quite a bit. It does have the open and closing mouth, a little bit easier to get to. Certainly doesn't have any of the problems with the jaw that I had with the arachnoid alien. The inner jaw can be removed or can be pulled out. It's just a little harder to kind of get your finger in there. I would probably suggest, if anything, getting yourself like a little pair of pliers or something like that, just to kind of pull those out. I was able to pull it out from, though, doing it with my hands. It's just almost next to impossible. You have to get your finger kind of in there. One also thing I've noticed between the arachnoid and now looking at the razor claw alien is the fact that it has these noticeable little spikes on its chin. Of course, the arachnoid alien that we already had a look at in the previous review also had that very same calling card. So again, just kind of neat that they would carry that over. And even like the video game, the original design character models for the video game also had like all of these same similar features, including the elongated, stretched out dome head. God, I love that. That's so cool. Okay, so let's have a look at this guy's posability. So his head is something that in theory could rotate. I find it personally very, very tight on this particular figure. You do also have something that you have to run the risk of watching out for, is these additional tubes. The arachnoid did not have that, did not possess that. So when you are moving the head, any bit of possible ways that you can move the head, again, it's just really stiff here. You want to be careful that these tubes don't pull, yank, or rip. And that's something that would be something that's common with xenomorphs that have that, and also most notably it would be something that's common with the tubes that attach onto the shoulder armor of predators. It's one of those things that you have to be very much spotting if you ever buy this guy loose, is that these tubes are intact and they're not ripped in any way, shape, or form. Just get a good look again at the dome there. Exquisite detail there. You can almost even make out where its eye would be visible. Again, just the ribbed texturing underneath all of that. Awesome. I'm getting so sidetracked here looking at the details on this guy. His torso is on a ball joint. I find it does have some resistance to it. It seems like it's almost like a spring. Just going to have to loosen that just a little bit more, but it does swivel back and forth. It hinges up and down. Much easier to hinge up and down than it does to rotate back and forth. The arms, luckily, didn't have any issues with breaking. Oh, geez, now that I've jinxed and said that. The arms rotate all the way around. You can hinge them out. It does have a double hinge on the elbow, which is something, again, I had problems with. I find this arm's a little on the loose side, but thank goodness it's loose and not broken. The hands also, the forearms, I should say, rotate back and forth, and then the very large hands. I'm curious actually why the hands are such a different color than the rest of the figure. I guess in the video game it's sort of the same. These seem to be a lighter color, but I kind of wish that they could have just transitioned it a little bit more, because like you can see a very stark stopping point where that darker purple doesn't go any bit further, and then the hands are just so very, very bright. Very, very bright pink color. It does seem like a little jarring to see like forearms in purple, and then obviously like really bright hands. But I guess, again, that's how the game based it from. At least the under sections of the hands do have the carrying continuation of the purple, so that's not so bad. The finger blades, again, we just look at those. It would be fun. I mean, I'm always kind of, when I look at these figures, kind of think to myself, how could you customize this? I mean, taking the hands, I would love to see somebody actually do like a Freddy Krueger. I mean, I'm mixing, of course, genres here. Love to see them actually somehow be able to craft like a Freddy Krueger xenomorph. Imagine how cool that would be. The legs go forward to really about that point, and they also hinge back. They split out via a ball joint, like so. And there's a swivel, technically, where the thigh attaches to the ball joint. You can swivel those back and forth. Double hinge happening on the knee, so a good generous bend happening there. The feet do rotate back and forth, hinge up and down. And then you have also toe articulation on the toes rather than one toe. Two toes of articulation, peg holes on the undersides of the feet. I love when they incorporate peg holes on the undersides of the feet. And of course your standard go-to of having the hinge happening on the tail. Just kind of an FYI too, bending the tail, I do feel like when you bend this too much, I feel like you're going to start developing stress marks. I don't know why you would want to be bending that back and forth the way that you are, but I just want to say that it does feel like it's a separate appliance. It's a separate piece from the rest of the body, and you know, again, you don't want that. You don't want that breaking. Nobody wants a broken figure. I don't want a broken figure. I'm sure you don't want a broken figure. Who wants a broken figure? Except for maybe Johnny Broken Fingers figures. He's the guy in town that is known for having. He just buys figures and then breaks them. I don't know why. What's his deal? I certainly would not be inviting him over to my house. Anyways, there is the Razor Claw Xenomorph. There he is right there. And the previously looked at, because I said I would do some comparisons, the previously looked at Arachnoid Alien. Proportionally, I kind of like the body on this one a little bit more, but it's really all those additional details on the Razor Claw Alien that just make this guy pop. The color, of course, pops, and then just the exaggerated details, the longer tail, the longer feet, the razor claw hands, and of course the elongated forehead and dome part of its head really make this guy a standout as well. Alien vs. Predator wasn't as common of an arcade for me growing up as, say, the regulars, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men, and Simpsons. My local arcades generally would stock the latter three, and never really Alien vs. Predator. It was one of those titles that I only really stumbled upon by visiting a friend who lived a little further away. He had a mall that was close to him, and had an arcade in the mall that I first stumbled onto this game and must have popped in several hundred quarters. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But you get the idea. When you stumble onto an arcade that you don't normally see too often, Mortal Kombat was also one that was introduced to me by going to that arcade. And it wasn't really at my local arcades. So those were the games I kind of have fond memories for. As more games that I didn't play regularly, but something I looked forward to when I was visiting said friend and visiting said arcade. Alien vs. Predator, I kind of picked up later on in life more so, picking up the ROMs and the various different ways that you could play arcades after the fact without, of course, outright buying a full cabinet that could sit inside your house. That was very expensive then, and it certainly still is now. This is still one of those favorite games of mine, like a beat 'em up, mash 'em up game where you go from one point to point B, point A to point B, beating up various different drones that all kind of look the same, eventually getting yourself to a final boss. Still something to be said about the uniqueness about Alien vs. Predator. I really like the idea that the Predator could pick up various weapons as they were being dropped and could kind of use those along the way. Razor Claw happened to be like one of those kind of drone aliens, but it did stand out to me, still to this day, the bright pink color of this specific xenomorph with the longer notable nails and the very elongated head. The fact that we would even get ourselves a figure based on this is pretty cool, and of course, the one company that would be able to handle it is the very same company that's been handling the Xenomorph property for many years, and that's the folks over at NECA Toys. I'm just thankful for the fact that we finally get ourselves a Razor Claw alien the same way that we finally get ourselves a Arachnoid alien. It's definitely it's a good time right now to be an Alien vs. Predator fan. If you guys are interested in picking this one up for yourself, the Razor Claws alien, it should be available right now along with the Arachnoid alien. A whole lot of aliens being said here in Final Looks. Should be available right now at your local comic book stores and some retail stores. As a question that's certainly posed to you guys, the viewing audience, let me know down below, what was an obscure arcade that wasn't at your local arcades, but maybe the few times that you would be able to visit it was the arcade that kind of got you excited about visiting that arcade? Did you have Alien vs. Predator in your local arcades, or like me, did you have to kind of go further reaches beyond the scope of where you normally would be playing your arcades to kind of pick up and play gems like this? Let me know down below in the comments section, what is an obscure arcade that maybe other people were able to frequently play and you just didn't have the option to play it because it wasn't at your local arcades? Always like reading your comments down below. Also, speaking of down below, if you are new to this channel or a long-time viewer and just never got around to it, make sure you turn on your bell notifications, and before you do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Certainly more videos will be coming your way. We're going to have a look at the other Alien vs. Predator Xenomorph in the next review. I know I sort of just gave that away, but you guys probably can kind of see the pattern forming here. We've done 2 of the 3 figures. Probably, yeah, it'd be a safe bet to assume that I'm going to be looking at the 3rd figure, and you're absolutely right. So that video will be coming up right around the corner. Stay tuned for that, and certainly more NECA reviews will be coming soon to this channel as well, so stay tuned for those as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.